Welcome back to The Deal. I'm Danny Brown. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you consume your podcasts, and check us out on YouTube. Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts. It really, really helps with our metrics, our ratings, and our future sponsorship. The podcast is now in the 7th season, and I thank you all for your support. If someone's interested in real estate or business, please invite them to listen to the podcast. Our guest today is an iconic titan in the residential real estate business. Scott Gibson used to be the president of Coldwell Banker, locally Southern California and nationally, where he oversaw like 60,000 agents. He's now one of the heads of Compass, managing director here on the LA Southern California front. And he had Gibson, his own brokerage, Gibson, that was acquired by Compass some years ago. But anyways, we're going to get into what you can do now in your real estate business, as well as he touches on the highlights and summaries of the last 4 or 5 recessions and how they impacted the housing market. So this is really, really interesting stuff. You can find Scott on Instagram, Gibson_S. You can also find him on the Compass website. But school is in session. You're going to want to listen closely to what this man has to say. Talk to you soon. Good to see you, Scott Gibson. How are you?
Great to see you, Danny. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Great. Well, here we are, mid-February, February 16th in the west side of Los Angeles, actually in Beverly Hills. Talking real estate with Scott Gibson. You've been through the market, ups and downs many times. You've ran multiple offices. You've overseen thousands and thousands of agents since the late 70s through now. I kind of want to get into your take on what's happening in today's market or today's recession. It's a little weird calling it a recession standing where I am today, but it is a recession. And I'd love to get sort of a history of recessions and how they've impacted real estate and real estate prices, housing prices, since you've been in the market, since you've been in the business. You've seen a few things. So I know that's kind of a long-winded question, but if you can take us back and kind of walk us through the major recessions, last 4 or 5 or so, and then we'll tie it into what you're seeing today, and we can discuss what's going on today.
Yeah, thank God I'm not so old that I can remember the Depression. But so I would say just quickly, I'm just thinking about it. I got in the business 78. Prices at that time and interest rates were like 8, 9. They started to go up to 12. First recession I went through was 82. Really was an economic recession. Wasn't, in other words, it wasn't really a real estate related recession.
Sure.
And that passed through, recovered 84 to 86 and 87, 88. Prices recovered. Next recession hit early 90s. That was more around the Middle East and other turmoil. Again, real estate was very impacted then because there was a tremendous amount of foreclosures and a lot of job loss, I'd say. And then, when I think about going forward, it's been pretty mild, other than until we got to 2008, 9, and 10, which was real estate related, and the over lending, and we had such a tremendous amount of foreclosures, and we had a new thing called short pays, and the stock market plummeted, and of course that was almost close to a depression, and real estate values plummeted significantly. Then didn't really recover till 2011, 12. Took a longer recovery, and here we are now. I'd say that out of all the recessions right now, residential real estate's in the best financial health that I've ever seen in my career, in that lending practices have been very conservative over the last 10 years as a result of that last debacle, 2008 and 9. There's been a tremendous amount of home appreciation. So there's trillions of dollars worth of equity out there. We're not seeing, coming into this market, we're not seeing a tremendous amount of distressed properties. We are starting to see distressed people, but not so much properties. And I would say that this market, and I like to tell my agents now that last year, 2022, was really 2 years in one. The first 6 months was a continuation of 2021, and the next 6 months were really the start of 2023. Uh, 2021 prices peaked in March, April, May, and you could see that there was irrational exuberance occurring in the marketplace. Last 6 months, comparatively speaking, from the past 18 months was dramatically slower or slowing as interest rates more than doubled overnight, which is the first time in history.
Yeah.
Certainly the first time I've ever seen.
Yeah, they never raised so quickly in such a short amount of time.
Never, never. And here we are now into this market, and I think that we're in a very healthy position. High demand, low inventory, but prices are declining.
Okay, before I jump into more of that and dive deeply, can you just touch on your best recollection of when you say prices were impacted in the early 80s? What did that mean if we're talking about prime West Side? Let's get micro. Prime West Side, since that's where we are, that's where most of our clients and work is. Do you recall in that recession and then in the 90s, which was sort of that Middle East and then the first wave of the dot-com bust, and then we can jump to the 2008, which I have a pretty good grasp on because I survived it, and then today. So you recall sort of what peak to trough pricing looked like, and also do you recall the interest rates and what happened with interest rates during those recessions?
Well, 82 was really driven by the inflation period. The 70s were inflation, and Volcker jacked up interest rates, and uh, I was doing land contracts, assumptions. Rates were, you get a loan for 16% and do a second for 5. And so housing prices, and when you say the West Side has matured as a market. So the the impact was much more significant in prior downturns. Back then, prices probably declined 35% as trough, um, because there were foreclosures, and then started to gradually rise again, and reclaimed their heights, and moved on after that till we got to early 90s. And
Okay.
early 90s, we did see a lot of foreclosures. Again, that was a job related. There's significant job losses, unlike today. uh, We're seeing,
What were the price drops then? And that
but it's the weirdest recession I've ever seen.
getting back, what do you think the price drops were in that 93, 94, 95?
I'd say another 30-40%. I
So
mean,
big drops.
yeah, big drop because there was a tremendous amount of inventory on the market and people were trying to sell. So it put a lot of pressure on prices. And then 2008 and 9, and that recession and that time, that was a real estate related. And the thing that really kept prices from falling more than the 30%, and maybe in some areas 40, was short pays, where it kept some inventory off the market, or at least kept it at is not as distressed. But again, I'd say things dropped between about 30%, and the West Side probably 25. It was probably a little less then. Um,
Yeah, I felt that West Side Prime, Beverly Hills Flats, Brentwood Park, Riviera, the prime was like 20% plus or minus, which is, much less significant a drop than the previous recessions that you said sound like they were 35, 40. Of course, if you went to surrounding areas of LA, it was 40, 50%, whether you're out in the valley and surrounding areas. All right, so here we are today, and what you said is just brilliant about last year being 2 years. We came off this COVID boom, and last year, 2022, first half of the year, felt like it was peaking. And then all of a sudden, the interest rates shot up. They went from less than 3% on a 30-year jumbo to 7% really quick. And the brakes were hit on. I remember having a listing north of Montana come on the market in June. and it was the first thing that came out north of Montana right after the interest rates went up, and we had a pause. I mean, people were taking notice and not writing offers, and 2 weeks before, literally, it would have been in multiple offers. So that second half of the year, I felt like we were definitely in a slowdown. I think technically we were in a recession. It was more than 2 quarters of slow growth or negative growth. But something interesting happened over the holidays time, mid-December, late December, and in the last 45 days, the first month and a half of this year, things seem to just snap back. Prices, activity, multiples. What is your take on what is going on today here in early 23, and what is happening?
Well, I think again, I think because as I said earlier, we're in the healthiest position as an industry that I've ever seen. And interest rates, I think that initially the shock of interest rates has started to wear off on people. They're getting more used to that 5 or 6%. I will tell you that 7% appears to be a threshold, and right now we're marching back to 7%. So that's going to put some brakes on the environment. As to the environment right now, I think it's just because there's a tremendous amount of pent up demand. There's a lot of buyers out there that have been waiting for an opportunity. Prices have come down from their peak for sure. I tell my agents they're declining about a point a month right now. That's a generalization, but that's probably true. The multiple offers that are selling, when I quiz the agents, they say, they're pricing their houses 3 to 5% below the last comp. So if they're priced that way, they're selling in multiples. If they're not priced that way, they're sitting. So we're starting to see more sitting inventory come on the market, start to build in certain areas. And there's other changes too. There's been the new tax code, the new tax from City of
ULA.
LA that's bringing on a lot more inventory right now. All of a sudden, over 5 million. We're seeing more of that, and I think that's going to put pressure on prices. But I think what you're seeing now is pent-up demand, a window of opportunity that buyers are seeing. Sellers are a little bit more amenable to negotiating and allowing repairs or negotiating repairs, and et cetera. And I think that it's a window right now for buyers. I don't know how long that window will be there.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like definitely a window. It was a window in that fourth quarter last year for buyers, a really good window, and there's one now. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward. So you think we're marching with higher interest rates back to 7, and I think so far it's 7% has shown to be the breaking point where we're breaching and people take pause for whatever reason. So far, that's what experience. So you're feeling that that's where we're heading again, and then we're going to hit another lull.
Yeah, I think the key indicator to watch on that is probably the 10-year, even though a 10-year treasury, even though that's not directly related to mortgage rates, but it appears to be, and it's at 3.9 today. Once that hits over 4, I think you're heading towards that 7% mortgage.
Yeah, and how long do you think that's going to last? I mean, do you think the rest of 23 is going to be 7% more and more of a slowdown, or do you think it's going to be quarter by quarter adjustments up and down?
I having lived through inflation, which many people haven't before, inflation doesn't go away easily. It's very sticky, as they say. And we're seeing it in the numbers that have come out in the last day or two. And I think that the Fed everybody thinks that they're going to stop raising and then they're going to lower interest rates. I think the Fed's going to continue raising interest rates all year long until they start to see unemployment increase. I think that your other areas you look at, you were still on inverted interest rates, where the 10-year is higher than the 30-year. I don't think we're out of trouble until our interest rates re-invert back to what's normal out there, and we see unemployment hit in the 4s. Probably will make the Fed happy. Sounds silly, but that's the way it is. And we start to see inflation truly come down in a more meaningful fashion than it has been over the last couple months. So I think it's as I've said along, stay alive to 25. I think I said that on your last show.
Yeah, stay alive to 25. So let me bring that up. You were on, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe it's almost a year by now. And in that show, in our interview, you said, look, no one knows it yet, but a recession is happening, and it's just below water, and we're going to have a slowdown. It's just a matter of when, not if. And that did come to fruition. We had a very quick put the brakes on, back half of last year. And we're still in it, slogging away. Although, as you pointed out, if sellers price below 3-5% below last comp, and it's a good product, good location, they are getting activity. So yes, you were very telepathic, visionary on that. But let me put you in a position. If I'm your child or your family, and I'm a buyer, what would your advice be to me today as a buyer? And then I'm going to flip it and say, okay, if I'm a potential seller, what would you be advising your family to do?
First off, I don't think you can ever uh, hope to buy at the lowest point and sell at the highest point. I think, actually, I'm looking with my child right now, and we're looking like a 5 to 10 year out. If you're looking to only hold something 2 years, you're going to probably lose money. To be honest with you. So, I mean, if you don't have that perspective of a 5 to 10 year hold, I don't think prices will start climbing again until 2025, maybe 2026, but 2025. So I think that that's the perspective you have, and we're looking now, and we're seeing more and more stuff come on.
Yeah. So your view to the buyer, your opinion is, hey, look, long term, if you're looking long term, now's the time. Let's look. There's more inventory. And if you find something good that you like and can afford with a long term outlook, you're you're okay with it. You're advising to move forward. All right. What if you're a seller today and it's your same child that's got a house that maybe they're thinking of selling or we want to sell? What is your advice to the seller?
I think right now, especially, you've got a window, you've got a tremendous amount of buyers, you've got financing. Lenders are still very open on financing, so they haven't restricted it all. Appraisal is still coming in. I think if you're thinking of selling in the next 2 years, or you have to sell in the next 2 years, that you should do it now. Otherwise, you're going to see 10 to 15% less in 2 years. And whether that is important to you or not, that I couldn't tell you. But I think that you're on a downward price. Price is depreciating right now, and my advice is, if you need to sell or want to sell within the next 2 years, do it now. Otherwise, wait till 26.
Stay alive till 25 and wait till 26.
Yeah.
All right, so we touched enough about the market. Let's get into some more fun stuff. Can we go back in time and when it used to be really fun to be a real estate agent in the 70s and 80s when title and escrow officers were throwing parties? I mean,
The good old days.
remind me of how I missed the good times. But what what are some fun stories we could share? What was allowed then that's not allowed now?
Oh, I can't talk about those
Oh, you
things.
can't talk. But certainly entertaining. They could take you to games. They could take you out. That was not.
I've given you my permission to record this. I can't allow. I can't talk about that. I think one of the fun memories that I have, as far as our business goes, is when a guy named Fred Sands was in business, and a guy Mike Glickman was in business, and John Douglas, and then Prudential. And I remember Fred coming down, and LA Magazine was asking Fred to do an interview with Mike Glickman, who Fred did not like Mike Glickman, and had been recruiting Fred's agents, and asked me whether or not he should appear and on the cover with Mike, with John Douglas, and give Mike that credibility. And I said, I think you should. I think it will probably highlight your stature more than it will his. And but it was quite a discussion. It took us 2 days for him to make the decision, and he ended up appearing on that cover. And Mike had a good operation for a while. And in fact, I am in his former office right now, where Mike Glickman had his Brentwood office.
Oh wow.
How's that for weird?
Yeah, isn't Glickman still active in the valley? I thought he's.
No, Mike is still active as far as I know, but he's living in Hawaii.
Good for him. Aloha, Mike Glickman. If you're listening, I should get him on here and tell some stories.
Yeah, he'd be interesting.
He would be. I gotta find that.
I've got his phone number.
Yeah, send me his number. I gotta find that old LA magazine with Douglas and
Mike and
Betty.
I had a horse or two that when I owned racehorses that raced against each other at Hollywood Park. So
Are you serious?
yeah,
That's fun. That's fun. All right, since you're not going to go into the fun stuff from the 70s and 80s and 90s, let me go. Give me some advice you'd give to some agents. Now, our audience is a lot of agents at all levels, but right now, a lot of agents are some are getting out of the business, others are in a sort of state of panic. What is your sort of sage wisdom advice now today for an agent to focus on what they should be doing, what they should be thinking?
well, I'll tell you what. Having been in the business at times when I was really short of money, um, like the early '80s, when things were bad, I think the worst, or I should say, the best advice, the worst thing an agent can do, but the best advice I can tell you is don't panic. Your clients can smell the fear or the anxiousness of your need to make a deal, and you have to mask that because it'll come across in how you work with them, how you show property, and how you counsel them. So you have to take a deep breath, not worry about making the mortgage today or the rent payment, and stay focused on your business and stay focused on the task at hand that you're supposed to be counseling your client.
Yeah, that's great advice.
It's hard though when you're looking at next month and you got a car payment, and I mean, and so that's a certain, those are newer agents that have gotten the business the last 3 or 4 years that saw some really good times. For those experienced agents, uh, some will drop out. There'll be a tremendous amount of attrition this year. Probably have 20 to 30% fewer agents by the end of the year, I believe, than we did at the beginning of the year. That's a huge opportunity for the people that stay focused and come in and work every day and focus in on their prospecting and stay consistent because you'll gain market share. Danny, you're going to make a fortune.
Oh, from your mouth to God's ears. Well, that's good because I got nothing but lint coming out of the pockets, so I'm ready for my fortune. I'm ready. I got my. This is my wealth elephant that my
I
wife
like
got me.
that. I like.
Yeah, I'm waiting. This is my time. Uh, I
I
saw.
think coaching is a good idea for a lot of agents too, or getting out and going to some different real estate programs, getting out there. Also, communicating with other agents, going on open houses, going on caravans, going into your office. I think is also an important thing. I think we got into this new mode of working from home, and being an island in this business has not necessarily been all that successful. You could probably get away with it in 21. But you can't really get away with it now. You can't hide and do business.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That your relationships with agents really becomes important, in tough times because people want to share information with who they like and trust, work with who they like and trust. And I think that's a huge advantage for agents that have already built good relationships and have a good reputation. And I definitely agree with that. I read it at NAR, or it was either NAR or CAR, one of the associations, that already 100,000 agents have left the business in the fourth quarter, or maybe it was over a month period. Like a huge amount has already, and I imagine that's going to be the case. Uh, in terms of veteran agents, what other tips you would give people to do? Should they be marketing? Should they be not marketing? Should they, what are some things that?
It's interesting. I'm going through a number of business reviews, have been for the last couple of months with top agents. Some of the things that I see that maybe have gone a little bit by the wayside or neglected, just because the business has been the way it was in 21 and first half of 22. One area is their internet presence. A lot of people haven't really gone back to look at their LinkedIn, their Zillow, their Realtor.com, uh, those websites, and see how their presence is. Update it. Make sure your pictures update. Everything is. Make sure you have current reviews. No one wants to read a review from 2021 and see nothing else on there. So you should be going out. It's a good reason to reach out to your clients. So that's one area, is to upgrade your internet presence. You need it. The other area is to make sure that you are organizing your contacts and you're using a CRM. My most successful agents use a specific contact process, a CRM, that enables them to reach out to clients in a consistent manner. I keep pounding that away. Consistency is key.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is a lot of fundamentals, getting back to the fundamentals. And when we're in a frothy market, agents some oftentimes get so busy and deals are coming so fast and furious that we get away from the fundamentals of how you build a sustaining, healthy business. And doing a digital presence audit, I mean, that's perfect. I know I've started to do that. I need to get better at that and updating reviews. It seems so obvious, and it is, and it's fundamentals, but doing the fundamentals consistently on a daily basis are the difference between average and excellence. And that's a really good reminder. Getting back to the CRM, getting back to what we do is getting in front of people any way we
And
can.
then you should have a good contact management system with your existing clients you're working with on your listings, making sure that you have, when you get a listing, you know exactly what you're going to do, but you have to have a 60 to 90-day plan. It can't be a 2-week plan anymore. So because you're going to need to be able to communicate what you've done with that seller, for that seller on that listing, in order to maybe obtain a price reduction or some kind of change in order to get the property sold. And make sure you stay focused on what the seller's needs are. Why did they put their house on the market? And make sure you continue to touch base back on that with your seller to make sure they stay focused on what their goals were.
Yeah, that's another great point because we are also in the tough conversation business, and when markets shift and sellers are used to getting any price and they're not any longer, and their house is worth 5-10% less than they thought it was worth, those are tough conversations that agents have to have daily, and we have to be comfortable with it, and we have to set that up properly, as you said, up front with a plan, 60, 90 days, 6-month plan, being realistic up front, letting them know so that it's not just telling them what they want to hear. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for it's already a difficult conversation. You're setting yourself up for a no-win situation. So that's very sound
So you have
advice.
to have those conversations that if we don't get an offer within the first 30 days, maybe you plug in an automatic price reduction. And if you do make a price reduction, make it meaningful. Don't dink it down, because then the market will just wait you out and wait you out and wait you out. And you'll get those calls as an agent from somebody who says, "Oh, my client really loved the property. Would you let me know when an offer comes in?" That you might as well just phone it in. You're too high then.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Love it. I'm in some situations like that now with my buyers on things that are overpriced. And yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'd also say don't be afraid to write the offer.
Don't worry about offending anybody. Put it in and see what
Don't worry
happens.
about it. And on the seller side, counter to everything. And know that your first offer is probably your best.
These are just nuggets all day long. And I fully believe in this too. It's like just counter. It takes 10 minutes to put it out there and give them another chance. Keep it moving. Don't let the ball die in your court because you never know if someone's going to come up or not. Don't be emotional.
Buyers don't want to feel like they're stupid by overpaying, so they're going to come in lower than they'll pay. So but they want to find out where the seller's at. So just be patient with the process and counsel your seller up front when you take the listing that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to pivot and get into more personal advice and personal Scott Gibson stuff. So, what are some books that have really moved you in a way that you would recommend to people in business? And it doesn't have to be a business book, but just things that you thought, hey, this is an important read for people. I would recommend this to a friend.
I've read so many books I can't remember them all. The Art of War is one of my favorite books.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, that was a motivational book. I've read a lot of Tony Robbins books. I think that from the standpoint of, I don't know that there's a business book that I could, there's the old, Who Moved My Cheese and all those things. I think finding someone or something that motivates you, that excites you, like a Tony Robbins or any kind of a coach would be beneficial to you. As far as a special book, I really don't have a, a favorite in particular, other than The Art of War.
That's a good one. All right, what are some favorite movies? Could be
I
old,
love
could be new, could be any.
I love I love Top Gun last year.
You like the new one? Did you like it better
Yeah,
than the old one, or you like both?
that was outstanding. Both of them were great, but the second one was great. I just watched a great movie last night that is up for an Academy Award, and wouldn't you know, I know my pea brain will come up with it, but it was the Tom Hanks, The Fablemans,
Oh, okay.
and Tom Hanks. I keep thinking that it's Spielberg's, and it was very, very good. And I can see why it's nominated for Best Picture and him for Best Director. It's kind of a quasi autobiography on him.
Yeah, his life.
Very interesting from standpoint, but that was an excellent movie.
Yeah, I need to see that. All right, if you're working out or taking a walk and you're listening to music, what's on that? What's a couple songs on the Scott Gibson playlist to get you feeling good?
Any kind of rock and roll. Tom Petty, Led Zeppelin, Doors. I'm old school that way.
I love it. The classics, man. You can't beat that.
No, those are the things that motivate you.
All right, how about this vacation? If you could go anywhere, what's your next dream vacation? Where would you want to go?
Well, Antigua is on my radar. I was supposed to go last month, and I got ill and I couldn't go, so I may go in March. But right now, I'm going to the San Juan River to fly fish in
Nice.
June, and in July, I'm going up to Wyoming to do some fly fishing.
So you're doing some fly fishing. I love it.
And August, I go to Lake Tahoe, family vacation every year, summer vacation up there for a week or so, and the North Shore there. So those are some of our favorite things, and probably travel wise, we'll probably get to the Far East next year.
You got some good travel plans. I didn't realize so much fly fishing was set up for you this
Oh
year.
yeah,
You
I
love
think
fly fishing.
I think in this environment, especially, hobbies are a really good idea. You need something to quiet the voices, and generally, I read a lot of fictional stuff, especially before I go to sleep at night, because it tends to, as I say, quiet the voices and enables my mind to go on and fall into a nice sleep.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else you want to share with us? Any advice to agents? Any advice to? I mean, you've already shared so much, but if there's anything that you want to end with before we let you run out and put out a
Yeah, I
thousand
think I
fires.
think I still continue to find that people don't write their goals down. And I think if you're not writing your goals down, and there's various reasons why people don't. I guess it's confrontational, or they'll feel bad if they don't hit their goals. But I'm telling you, you have an 80% more likelihood, that's the right way to say that, of achieving your goals for the year if you write them down, even if you don't look at them again until the end of the year. So I think it's critical to your success to write your goals down. You could review them and you can break them down if you want, but just writing them down is a good first step for somebody. That, and you should plan a vacation. You got to have something to look forward to, because it's too hard of a business. And if you have something to look forward to, it gets you through the hard days.
100%. Every time I have a vacation or go on vacation, the phone rings. There's a listing. There's a deal, and I love it. I'm like, okay, if I'm slow, let's just book a vacation.
That's right. It's not a coincidence that happens.
I love it. Well, since you won't share your nitty gritty stories of Marina Del Rey in the late 70s or Chasen's in the 80s, we'll have to meet up for dinner soon to do that. But hey, look, I always appreciate sharing with you and hearing the stories and getting the sage wisdom, man. You're the best. So thank you. And yeah, get me Glickman's info. I want to get him on here. I wonder if he would do it. That would be classic.
I'll get you his info.
All right.
And my one last bit of advice
Yes.
is bet Kansas City next year for the Super Bowl.
Back to back. Don't ever bet against Mahomes, right?
That's right. I didn't. I bet against Brady, and I that was a mistake. So I'm not making that mistake twice.
Don't bet against Mahomes. Let's end it there. Good to see you, Scott.
All right, you guys.
That was awesome. Thanks, man.
Have a fabulous week.
I am today 'cause I didn't